Joining Kathy and I is State Representative John Patterson. And first of all, I want to congratulate you on your win.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very humbled and grateful for all the support.
So 2 more years.
2 more years.
Yeah.
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 Lots of homework.
Yeah, you told me that on the phone. And I want to thank you also for coming in. I know you were down in Columbus this week and
Yes.
made a special trip for us. What John did prior to the election, because we had to cut it off, because he's a regular guest on the show, we had to cut off his appearances because there's a window that the FCC does not allow candidates to come on unless it's paid for, which we don't do paid advertising here, but or I think it's 60 days, John, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And so he understood that, but he goes, listen, I'm going to give you my word, I will be on the show the next time I'm supposed to appear, win or lose. And of course he won, but if he would have lost, he still would have come in
here.
He would have done that. So thank you very much for coming. I appreciate that. What else has been going on in your world?
Oh my goodness, lots of things since I saw you last.
Okay.
Lame duck session, we call it crazy season in Columbus. A lot of things on the Christmas list that are trying to get pushed through, and this was a busy week down there. But I got to tell you, coming into Conneaut today, and I haven't been here since the Saturday before the election because I've been making so many trips to Columbus.
Right.
I was all excited. I saw the marina sign on the Route 7,
Nice.
and then again at the interchange, and I thought of Connie Naylor and all the hard work she's done, and can't wait till summer so we can really put that to use.
I know.
It got me all excited.
You know, Matt Crawford called this morning and said, remind me to tell you thank you for him because you got him those books and stuff, and he keeps bringing it up. He was really impressed.
Well, so there's a story behind that. ODNR delivered those. I mean, there were 6 or 7 boxes, heavy boxes. They delivered them to the office. They were excited that somebody was going to use them because they don't usually do that. And then to think that they drove them from outside of Columbus there, one of the suburbs where they're located, to our office. And I brought him home to Matt and transferred him in our driveway there. It was just a win-win-win all the way around, and that's positive for everybody. And it was a thrill to be able to do that, and it helps our kids in the long run. That's what it's all about.
It's all about learning.
And libraries,
And
reading's important.
Yes it is. Yes it is. That's why we love you.
Love being here.
Did you? Did the weather have anything to do with your driving yesterday or this week?
Well, I came back last night after session just to be with you two.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
to be with you two. Wanted you to know that.
Okay, thank you.
And there were some issues, minor in Mansfield, nothing bad. Now, the week before, there were trucks everywhere, semis jacking up in Mansfield, in that hilly area, tracks, obviously. But then 271, there were patches that were kind of dicey coming back.
Really?
But I just said to myself, got to get to Conneaut, got to get to Conneaut, and it got me through.
There you go.
Yeah.
The power of thinking.
That's right. That's right.
We actually dodged a bullet here, believe it or not. Even though the roads were not really good this morning, they're slippery and snowy covered and ice covered. But if we were just a little ways away from being another Buffalo, they actually were talking 2 to 4 feet.
It could have easily have been us.
Yeah, it was just that thin band that missed us.
Yeah, amazing.
Stayed out over the lake and ended up there. And they got another, what did they say, another 28 inches in 24 hours after they had the 4 or 6 feet or whatever it was. So I feel bad for those people.
Oh my gosh, yes, I have friends and the pictures that I've seen. Oh my, yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. And I do want to comment about the roads because there'll be some people that will be concerned about that. And what they need to know is this. I was thinking about this coming in this morning too. The price of salt. Last year it was $30-some a ton. Now it's $120-some in contract through the Ohio Department of Transportation. They buy in bulk. But we have to understand something. It's not just Northeast Ohio buying salt. Remember the crisis down in Georgia last year? Georgia, for example, has replenished their salt bins, and they were hammered with the vortex several times last year. We've actually imported salt, I believe it was from Morocco. There was a shipment that came in Toledo because we can't get enough out of the mines to replenish everybody's needs. So we're going to have to be patient. Municipalities can't afford to put down as much, that's reality, unless we want to raise taxes, and this is not the time to be doing that. So we just have to be smart and be
Right.
patient and give a big shout out to our crews that are out there helping us
Absolutely.
out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know our acting city manager and finance director John Williams made a report on this several weeks ago, and he was amazed that we're talking 3 times
Yeah.
what it was a year ago, and it was hard to get it then.
Yeah.
Really hard to get it last year.
And the strain on budgets is just
Oh, it's
unbelievable.
amazing.
So I'm hoping we limp through this winter and replenish those supplies so the price will
Yeah.
drop. On the upside of things, price of gas and diesel fuel has dropped dramatically. So there's some savings there because they do burn through a lot of fuel in the wintertime.
I'm trying to think, what was it? Is it 282? What it's down to now, or is it 382?
Wow. I don't know because I've been on the road. I mean, it was 270 something, coming through,
I think I got it for 282
Yeah.
a couple days ago.
Nonetheless, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, you weren't born in the day when I was getting gas. It was 21 cents or
Oh my
27 cents.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll see those pictures,
Yeah.
those old time prices.
Are you insinuating that he might be an antique?
Yeah, a little bit.
I
A little
am,
bit,
I am
right?
an antique.
Yeah, I was trying to word that very carefully.
She's young enough to be my daughter. Now, tell us about, any of the other
Some of
stuff
the things
coming
that are
up.
coming-
Yeah.
Yeah. We passed this week House Bill 490, which is an agricultural reform bill, and it was loaded with all kinds of things. I just want to point out some of the highlights. The bill itself is 255 pages long.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
And I spent one night going through it, making notes and digesting it, because we had testimony the following day. We didn't receive it until late afternoon of the previous day. So some nights are spent like that in Columbus. At any rate, a couple of things that impact Ohio, good news for Ohio. The Western Basin, concerned about algal blooms, and there was provision impacting the Western Basin that would prohibit open spreading manure on snow-covered ground. It could be injected or it could be applied to crops that are growing, cover crops. But had a discussion with some of the sponsors of that particular amendment, and I was adamant. I said, we don't have a problem here, so don't penalize us because we have some small farmers that do need to otherwise you have to store it, have to spread. The Grand River is clean, one of the cleanest rivers you're going to find. Conneaut Creek is clean. Asheville River, the cleanup is done there, so we're in good shape. But they do have a problem in western Ohio, and that concentration of phosphorus then builds up into the algal blooms in the spring. So we're able to craft that, do some tweaking, and it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts Western Basin. And the farmers out there want to get it right too. We want to be able to take care of this on our own before the feds come in, and you get the feds involved, there are a lot more issues. So that was a part of the bill, and I was pleased about that because I am concerned about algal blooms. It's not one of the burning issues here at our end of the lake, but it could be if left unchecked. So that was one thing in that bill. So there was a lot of concern about that.
I remember when George Distel was down there. This goes back a ways, but I remember he did a similar thing like you were saying, that and it had to do with septic tanks. They had rules that they
There are new regs coming out on
Is that
septic.
coming out?
It's coming back. They revisited that too. And not as bad as we originally thought, but and George would tell you this, sometimes our best work goes unseen. We're able to stop things from going in that would impact us that you never get credit for.
Right.
But I lobbied hard behind the scenes. The original intent was to ban all application in Ohio on snow cover, and that would have a devastating impact on our farmers up here.
Yeah.
We're doing it right.
It also would hurt the septic tank issue. Would hurt the construction
Oh my goodness! And
because it's so expensive.
yes,
What
yes.
they had in place, and George fought that. He goes, "We're okay. Leave us alone."
Right.
You know.
Right.
And it never really took
Exactly.
took hold. I didn't realize that.
And here's the issue with Ohio. We are such a diverse state. There are something like 4,000 different soil types in the state with different levels of saturation rates. And so what works maybe in Geauga County and one end of our district may not work here. So we have to be able to be flexible. And our district is so diverse. We have one of the most diverse districts of any of them in the state because we have a blend of agriculture and industry. We have the lake, but we just don't have Lake Erie. We have the largest inland lake in Ohio, in Pymatoonie, the largest private lake in Roaming Shores, and the diversity, economic diversity between Chardon and Cognac is pronounced. So it's a challenge and it's a great opportunity to represent a district like this, but it forces me to think out of the box so that I can be more valuable to some of my colleagues who are a little bit myopic at times because they don't.
Because they can be.
They can be.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Wow, that's interesting.
So yeah, that was a big lift this week. There are some other concerns in education. I want to share this. We just passed yesterday a bill that would limit testing. We've received a lot of testimony about children with these high stakes tests having some real emotional issues with respect to sleep deprivation, worrying about going to school, and on one hand, and here's where we have to find a sweet spot. On one hand, we need to know that those kids are moving through and they're getting their skills that they need at the appropriate age. So there has to be some assessment. On the other hand, if we test too much, we take the joy out of learning, and we force those kids into a situation with exactly. So we peeled that back so that on any of those, and we'll see how it goes through the Senate. I don't know if it's going to make it through the Senate, honestly, but we're sensitive to that issue. That no more than 4 hours per subject matter for any of those kids going through. So we'll see how that plays out. The Ohio Department of Education will have to implement it. But the point of the matter is, there's been concern about growing testing.
Absolutely.
And the stress that places on kids and the stress it places on teachers too.
Well, the stress and then just how the dynamic of the classroom changed so much because of the way the structure is.
Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of kids are missing out on some of the things that we talk about all the time that,
goodness.
made learning fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know, we know the answer to this, but I bet there's one person of this three who ate paste just to see what it tasted like. Do you think?
Yeah, I think
it wasn't
so.
me, was it?
It wasn't me.
I sent
no.
a little paste in my
Off that little paddle. I can see it.
I remember those days. Do they still have Dick, Sally, and Jane, or was it Jane and Sally? They don't do that anymore.
No, that series is gone. It was.
Yeah, but there is a couple of books that I just purchased for our library. They're on the New York Times bestseller, and it's everything I've learned in life. I've learned from a golden book.
Yeah.
Those are great.
Oh yeah, so these books are for adults, and if you just leaf through, there's life lessons. We have them at the Conneaut Library. So yeah, and you can look through and remember. There's one on Christmas, and then there's one just general, life in general. So,
Really?
They're very interesting. I'll bring it in for you. I think you'd enjoy looking at it.
You show it to the audience.
I shall bring him in.
Yeah.
My wife related a story to me February this year, and she does bus duty before her schedule, Geneva, Cork Elementary, and the kid was getting off the bus. Now, I'll ask you the question as a setup. Do you remember Valentine's Day in elementary school?
Oh, for sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
And what did we all do as a class? We made our
boxes.
Of course,
Yes.
decorated them up and hope it was stuffed, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, this kid got off the bus and was so excited. Miss Patterson, look what I did. Well, that's a beautiful box there, Billy, whatever his name was. And it broke her heart. He had made this at home because of the demand for testing, the upcoming
That's
tests.
what
They
we're talking
couldn't
about.
make it at school. And those projects where kids work together and laugh together and learn together.
There's
And
value in
the fabric,
that.
that glues us
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that it's just one little snippet of what
It really highlights that's a very good story to really highlight that. Yeah.
It is amazing how almost like regimented the learning is for these kids today. It was kind of fun going to school when we were kids. I mean, they always had that little bit of time. I don't even know if they have. See, my son's growing up now, but I don't even know. Do they have recesses and that sort of stuff like
Oh,
they
for
used
sure.
to do? They
Yes.
still have that. But it just seems. I went to a country school, Amboy, and it was like we had the fall festivals. We always look forward to that. And see, I'm not sure if they do all that stuff still. I don't know. You know.
No, not festivals. I mean, there's still class parties and those kinds. But even all of those things have been scaled back because it's all about the time. You know, the time that has to go into that educational component, the time you have to prepare for testing, and it's limited now.
Yeah.
You know, for those extra things.
Because 42.5% of a teacher's evaluation comes from student test scores.
Wow.
And that's scaled back. And that's one of those other things where we're able to rein them in. Original intent was half of a teacher's evaluation and potentially their pay in some district based on student test scores. Now my problem with that is not all students are created the same.
Right.
And the raw material coming in, we can't run schools like we do businesses. The raw material varies, and you can't just reject the raw material that they get.
Yes.
So and I can say this, some of my best teaching would have gone unnoticed because you would take kids who really had a need and invest in them and bring them up to maybe where they just average, which is a huge accomplishment. Some kids coming in with skills already in place, you just kind of guide them a little bit on the side and they do wonderfully well and they do well on the testing. But the real work, and this applies to coaching too, some of the best coaching jobs that I did over the year were taking those teams that were well below average and bringing them up to where they'd be respectable. So it's so complicated, so variable. I want to affirm our teachers. I want to affirm all those who are involved in education because those kids are our most precious natural resource,
Oh, gosh,
and we have to invest in them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very, very good. Well put. This is from Anaheim, California.
Anaheim,
especially to
California.
you, listening to us on the radio.
Oh my goodness.
Did Mr. Patterson ever check out the boat ramp
Yes.
off Woodworth Road for boat access to the creek?
And you know what? That question was on my mind, and I don't have an answer yet because I've not received an answer yet.
Okay.
But it's on my to-do list. On my to-do list. And in fact, it's critically important, especially with the passage of the Metro Parks levy.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
that was just incredible.
Isn't that great
Yes,
what we can do
yes.
now with access to Conneaut Creek and so? But
We're going to
I will
see
get back
that.
to
And that's what's great about
Yes.
the passage of that. Conneaut will benefit tremendously,
tremendously.
from that.
I'm not sure if I remember that question.
I do because I wrote it down, and I will get back as soon as the answer comes to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably
Because
by
that
the
is
next
important.
time you're on.
Right.
Yeah, Jim listens from Anaheim. He comes here every summer and utilizes the lake and the creek, and he just loves coming back to his hometown. So, and I appreciate that. I think that's
Yes,
neat when
important.
somebody comes back and respects his hometown that much. To spend 3-4 months.
Well,
here.
they're an ambassador for us when they're out in California, so
Absolutely.
that's great.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So the little research gurus are doing their issue on that, and I will have an answer.
Okay, good. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning, Pat.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, how you doing? I just wanted to talk to Mr. Patterson of what I had talked to you about one time, Turkey Creek. And I would like to see something done with that as far as access to one of only 2 cold water streams in the state of Ohio. And I had talked to Bob Best, he's on the Metro Parks Committee,
Yes.
and I would like to see your support and something going in that direction. Because they have Raccoon Creek, if you've ever been down to Raccoon Creek, there's a nice little pavilion down there and picnic area and so forth. And that would be a really nice attraction for visitors to Conneaut to have that and knowing what that is, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I just wanted to put that in your ear so that you can, I don't know, but, see what you can do about it.
Now, Tom, refresh my memory. Now, part of Turkey Creek is in Ohio, and the other part's in Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
Turkey Creek goes into Pennsylvania. It ends at State Line Road, the old State Line Road. There was
Right.
a bridge there.
Right.
There was a nice little pool. But I can remember going many times down to Turkey Creek Beach, and it's a nice little beach area, and I just thought it would be a nice attraction for people coming into Conneaut. I understand that all that land's for sale up on that area up there. I've heard a couple rumors of different things might happen, But I just wanted, and that was a big holdup for the steel mill because of that. The state put a big emphasis on the fact that that was a cold water stream. They were going to culvert it, put lighting in it, and so forth and so on. So I mean, if that was that important to go through all that effort, then shouldn't the state recognize it and maybe take a look at, preserving that? We've let some things go that we should have never let go, like there was a rock on Old Main Road, and Pat, you'll remember that watering trough?
Yeah, sure do.
And that got sold to a private person. The private person sold the rock, and it's not there no more. And that was a historical thing because that was spring fed. There was always water going into that rock. It was for the horses when they pulled stuff across County
Yeah, it
Creek
was a
in the
water
day.
trough, yeah.
And that was a dirty shame that was let go. So I'm just trying to be a little proactive here and put the bug in your ear, Mr. Patterson. And I voted for you, and I want you to succeed. And that's what I figured I'd call in and maybe put that in your ear.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yes, the development of those areas are critically important. One day last fall, I was coming back through Ashtabula down by the hospital, and I saw the parking lot was full there by the bridge where they put that new park in. So I pulled off, and of course I was in my suit, out of place a little bit. But I wanted to get in touch with the fishermen, get their take on it, what we need to do, and they were ecstatic about the access, the fact that the stream is clear now, and they're catching northern pike in there, and bass and trout. It's just a wonderful area, and families are able to come there and take advantage of it. So anything that we can do to help preserve the natural resources we have and yet promote the use of them, I'm all about that. And what's really exciting about the Metro Parks levy is that gives us seed money to attract even more grant money now.
Absolutely. That was the big component of that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was just a win-win-win all the way around, and Conneaut is blessed with so many natural resources of that nature, pardon the pun, but we can certainly grow.
Absolutely,
that.
yeah. And that's true. I mean, that list will grow. There are some items already on there as far as what the Metro Parks are trying to develop.
Right.
And then, of course, the whole point is to grow that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd just call in and mention that to you because, like I say, that is a true resource. And, I mean, it's a little creek, and it doesn't seem like much, but, I mean, the fact that all that effort was going to go into preserving it, I think something should be done with it. So I just wanted to call in and put that in your ear.
Thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Tom.
Okie doke. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time there as a kid, a teenager, and even afterwards, we used to have picnics down there and stuff. Turkey Creek was a really, really nice place. But once, back in '76 or '7, when the steel mill wanted to come in here, that all went away. All that land was sold off or bought.
And he referenced rumors, and I've heard them too, about potential. Yeah, there's interest in that.
I think you have to sell it all, though.
Yeah, and that's going to be expensive.
Very, very expensive. So I'd like to be a little birdie and see where that's going to go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Tom and I have talked about that in the past before. Wanted to ask you too. Is there anything else that was coming up in 2015 that we can alert the voter or the people out there on that you foresee?
Rumblings in Columbus now are based on what has already been proposed, and there's some legislation out there. It's open season on speculation. Let me put it to you like that. So there's a lot of things happening that may not be anything to worry about. But going forward, and I was talking to my aide about this, the next term, what we want to move forward with from our perspective. In 490, there were 4 amendments that I proposed concerning injection well legislation. All of them were rejected. I'm going to come back now. That seemed to be the best vehicle at the time for injection well protection. I'm going to come back now with a full developed bill at some point, and it's going to be comprehensive. because we need to balance. We need to balance preservation and protection because of the waterways that are so close by,
Yes.
with the development aspect, because we are all dependent on oil and gas, and we have to. There's a sweet spot in there between development and preservation.
Why would they? I guess why would they, or why did they reject?
Well, the bill was so complicated up front. It needed, and it was rushed through because now it's going over the Senate. Here's the problem: anything that we do not pass and get to the Senate and before December 31st dies, and it has to be reintroduced, and you go through the whole process again. And that 490 was so complex because it also related to the telecom industry. They were into
It's too layered. There were too many
oh
things.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was time to properly vet it. So the easiest thing is just say no. But I'm concerned about that moving forward. Now, granted, with the price of fuel and gas falling as it has, there's not the pressure. We're not going to see the development here anytime soon, which is good for
Yeah.
us. But the reality is injection wells are here to stay. And I do have some concerns about that, and I want to address that. That's one thing that's on my agenda. That's a huge lift.
It's very big.
Education funding, still on the list. I'm concerned about that. We've got to get this right because we need to balance appropriate taxation with appropriate funding of school, equitable and adequate, thorough and efficient. And there are some forces out there who, quite frankly, I think are wanting to set the public schools up for failure.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I mean, that may not be their intent, but that's what is
Right.
indeed happening.
Right.
And we have to invest in. Kathy and I were talking about this off the air. We have to invest in pre-K education, so that those kids come to school with those skills necessary so that when they do get introduced to formalized instruction, that they're ready to take off. If we don't get those kids reading by third grade, there's a heck of a price to be paid down the road. In fact, third grade seems to be the tipping point, because if they don't get it by third grade, the gap between those who can read and those who can't widens, and they do not make it up the rest of their high school career. It limits their opportunities. And for some ways, and I've spent, and you know I've been over to the Lake Erie several times and passed out commendations, but I've also been to Pickaway, I've also been to Death Row and talked with some of those inmates. What should I know? To a man, every one of them, make sure those kids get an education. Make sure they're able to read.
Really?
Because it is so important. And let's face it, if you don't have the ability to read and you don't do well in school, then that life that's not necessarily in congruence with normal civilization becomes attractive.
And what's important to understand here is that this isn't his opinion. This isn't just the way we think. There's data.
Tons.
There's tons of it. There's years and years and years of all the data that shows that if you are not reading proficiently by third grade, you are less likely to graduate from high school. You are less likely to continue your education. You're less likely to hold a job.
I'm trying to think back, Kathy, and we start reading in the first grade, right? Do they not start teaching you?
Okay, no, but again, we were talking during the
What's
commercial. Kids need to be reading before they start formalized education. That's pre-K. Children,
Even that young?
yes,
Now
children
they
need
need
to
to.
be reading
See, I
and
never went to
comprehending.
kindergarten, so I wouldn't even have had that.
And if you think of the jobs that were available when you came out, reading wasn't as important as it is now. We are so high tech, it's absolutely critical because the world has changed. We're not talking about a local economy. A global economy dictates that our kids are able to read if they're going to compete in it.
And if you even think about the testing component, you need to be able to read, and you need to understand the written instructions, the verbal instructions, and all that is tied to literacy. And if we're testing, especially, right off the bat in elementary school, it plays a huge role if you can comprehend what's going on.
See, reading to me is something that I think I've taken for granted because I was in the newspaper business and I love to read. That's a hobby of mine. I read 3 or 4 newspapers a day and plus books and everything else. But I don't remember having a problem with reading. I think that was just something that I enjoyed doing, maybe. I
But,
don't know.
you know, I told you I was in Indiana for work, and I was presenting at the Indiana conference, and my presentation was about reaching underserved populations. And I've made a friend in our ward in Brigham Sloan.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he has given me a wealth of information that we need at the library in order to move forward. I'm spreading that information to my colleagues, you know, even in other states. And the key component that he wanted to make sure that I understood and that I'm letting other people know is the number one reason folks become incarcerated or reoffend is a lack of leisure skills.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's huge. A lack of leisure skills. What you described was a love of reading.
Yeah.
That's a leisure activity, and you took it for granted. You know, we need to encourage reading. We need to encourage reading of fiction. We need to make
Right.
sure, number one, that children can read, but then they're also become voracious readers, and that they're finding something that they're interested in, whether it is then that'll lead to an agricultural component or a technology component, but it all starts with that early literacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's huge.
We got to do that book thing that we've been talking about
I
forever.
know, yeah, we do.
Because we got to push reading. We
And
got to
here-
push it.
here's what underpins that. And this also stems from the conversation we had when he left the room.
I know, we get a lot of work done, see?
Yeah. It's about experiencing things in life to find out what our gifts are.
Right.
And reading is the only, well, not the only, it's the primary way of it being able to experience without investing in time or energy. If you want to learn about something, you pick up a book.
Right.
As opposed to actually, it's the next best thing to being there.
Yeah.
But without those skills, it limits, it compacts, it telescopes one's ability to find one's gifts.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Pat, John, and Kathy, Lonnie Hutchins. How are you guys
Oh,
doing?
good morning.
Hi, Ronnie.
Hey, John, did you turn the heat on outside?
I forgot to this morning. I'll get it on the way out of the studio, okay?
That a boy. I figured you could handle that.
I can.
I have a question, please. I hear some rumors about Happy Hearts at Ashcraft. I'm very concerned about this because this is a world of its own.
Yes.
Inside these walls, if people had any idea what goes on inside those walls, there would never, ever be a question.
Correct.
What's the future look like for these folks? Are we going to end up losing them in the near future, or are we going to be able to maintain this facility?
I'm glad you asked that question, and it's been on my radar for a long time. In fact, that was one of the values of going door to door. I went to Lori Burdick's door on a Friday afternoon sometime in September, and she alerted me to this issue. And I can tell you, Lonnie, that Monday, Director Martin from the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities is coming to meet with us and the staff at Happy Hearts.
Okay.
And so I went right to the source. We were able to arrange that meeting. I called him up and said, you know, we've got some issues here. How would you like to do a teleconference? And to his credit, he said, well, I want to come up and see that. And I said, fine, we'll arrange things and we'll make it a day. So he's coming up this coming Monday and to offer some answers. Now, part of the issue is the feds and how federal regulations impact us, and that is beyond my pay grade. But the point of the matter is, he is coming to us. We'll be able to answer that questions. I've been to Happy Hearts multiple times. I've been to Ashcraft. I love what they do out there. And some young people that I know actually work out there, and to see their joy, to show me personally what they're making, what they're doing, that was affirming to them, and it brought great joy to my heart, and I strongly support that particular endeavor for our kids. It just makes, and our adults, it's the right thing to do.
Well, I think, you know, if people just take a look, just see what's
Right.
there, it's just absolutely astounding what those folks are doing. It gives life, it gives future, and
Yep.
it gives everything to these young folks.
That's right.
So I'm really glad to hear that you're looking into it. Good luck, God bless, and take care of these kids for us.
I'll do my very best. You know that.
Okay, take care. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks, Lonnie.
Bye.
Yeah, I had a lady come up to me in a store several weeks ago, and I checked it out, but she was literally in tears because I guess she was, are you aware of this petition that's out? to stop this. And I go, I really don't know that much about it, but I did look into it, and by gosh, she was right.
Yes, and I received those petitions. Now, Lori's door was the first of a number that I went to and found out. And you know what? That's a 2-year term goes by so fast. On one hand, it's sad because we're out campaigning. On the other hand, it forces me to stay in touch with my
Oh,
people.
for sure, yeah.
And so I was very much thrilled that we were able to pull that off, and that Director Martin's coming up here. And keep in mind, Happy Hearts is a public endeavor, which means that if anybody out there wants to know what's going on, just give them a call, and they'll be more than willing. They'll be delighted to take people through there and see what they're doing. It has a special place in my heart.
Oh, mine too.
Yep.
I mean, I used to cover their little prom and things like
Yes,
that.
and the Thanksgiving dinners are really good out there too.
Yeah. Now, is it my understanding, is this true, John, that the governor feels that these folks need to be out more away from the regiment of the school itself? Is that what?
And that's also coming from the federal government too. Now, hear it again. In theory, we want to make sure all doors are open to our people. We don't want to hold them back if they're able to.
Okay.
If they're able to, as
Right,
normal
right.
functioning as possible. That's a worthy goal. On the other hand, there are some that do better in that environment, and that's where there's a constant tension. And that's what I hope Director Martin can provide answers for.
Okay.
Those who can succeed, God bless them, and open those doors. But those who need that special instruction, let's keep them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning, this is Linda. Just a minute. Congratulations, John, for winning the election again.
Thank you.
And I had a privilege of working at Happy Hearts, and I'll tell you, when I was hired, I thought, my sister had also worked there, and she said, oh, Linda, I don't think you'll be able to handle it. Well, I went to work there, and I loved it. Them students and them people were so wonderful. I had one student that she was just a joy. I mean, I just loved her to pieces. And they are so loving and want help and everything. I really, truly enjoyed it. And I pray the Lord that they don't shut that down, and also that the adult places where they have to stay, you know, they're talking about closing them. And that would be such a sad, because them people enjoy that and working. I know this little girl, she just loves to go to work every day, and if she's sick or something, she just has a conniption because she can't go to work. And they learn so much over there, and if they would close that, that would be a tragedy.
It would be.
So I hope that. And also I wanted to ask you, are they still going to try and fight for this, to have, like, take the physical education and the bands and the choirs and all of them? Are they still wanting to do that, or are they going to fight so these students can have that? I'll hang up and let you talk. And thank you very much. You did an excellent job for our tourism.
Thank you.
And that was another topic that we talked about when you went out.
I was only gone for 30 seconds.
But we had to get a lot of work done.
Wow, all I did was put some water in my cup.
That issue is currently being discussed at the Ohio Department of Education. It's not in the legislature. And quite frankly, I'm adamantly opposed to that. That we need to offer kids the ability to participate in art, music, and gym, the performing arts, the visual arts, again, to allow them to experience things that they might not otherwise see.
Absolutely.
Critically important, especially if we talk about being creative as a society, and you hear the term, think out of the box. Well, you can't do that unless you've been able to experiment with that as a kid. So that's something else that is on my radar that I feel strongly about, because here's the other thing. In schools, and this is what some people I don't think ODE really understand this, teacher planning time is carved around those specials.
Absolutely.
So now if those are eliminated, then you're going to have to create another mechanism for teachers to do the conferencing, and we're requiring more of that all the
Yes.
time
Wow.
throughout the course of the school day. It's couched as allowing schools more flexibility. Well, you know what? If push comes to shove and we allow those things to be optional and we cut funding to school, as what has been the case, what's going to be the first thing to go? Whatever's not tested. And I think it's criminal if we allow that to... Sorry.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good morning, you're on the air.
Morning, Pat. Hey, this is Earl.
Hi, Earl.
Hi, Earl.
Hey, congratulations again. I just wanted to tell you I voted for you, and I think you're doing a great job. But here's the question. What can be done about the Amish in their buggies? I went to school in Indiana, and there were certain regulations that they had to do. Their lights were battery operated by a car battery. They were so bright it looked like somebody's brake lights. But I'm going to like Andover and down to Meadville, Concordan. These kids are like 7, 8 years old driving these buggies, and very dangerous. I believe that they should be at least 16 and have something done about this. When I went down the other day, I took my sister some tires and rims for her car for the winter, and I didn't even see it until I almost got right on it. Here has a buggy with a white, all in white canvas. But I think the state needs to start doing something about it. I'm not down on the Amish because I work with them up in Indiana and stuff, in the summertime, and great people. But it's getting on the ridiculous side, and I've always meant to call you because I know you're a man of action, and so I'll just hang up and see what you got to say.
Okay, thanks, Earl.
I'm working on that one too. 2 years, it will be a year ago this fall, I went out to 4 different Amish bishops. We have to understand, he's referring to the White Toppers, what's called the White Toppers, a very conservative sect. And there's a reason why, obviously real estate is cheap, but they've come here to avoid some of these groups of Amish, and I'm just being factual, not condemnatory.
Right.
They've come here so that they can lead their life as they see fit. I went to each of those 4 bishops and asked them, related to them, because we'd had like 3 buggy crashes within a period of time last fall, if you remember. And I mentioned to them that this is an issue. Some of them are still using gas lights, not even electric batteries. I said, you know what? If I wanted to let them take action first, because that would be the best thing to do as opposed to the state coming in. Nothing has happened, nothing has changed. So just this week again, and I've been working with Representative Hall, who is from Holmes County. And the Amish in Holmes County are a little bit more progressive and liberal, for lack of a better term, with respect to the use of electric and LED lights. In fact, he was able to, in conjunction with the State Highway Patrol, come up with a buggy that the State Highway Patrol recommended and then take it to various functions so the Amish could see what would be a better fit for them. And had this conversation this week. I'm truly concerned about that. On the other hand, we can pass laws, but they still have to be enforced. And there's a balance there between being able, and in fact I've had some constituents talk about licensing buggies.
Really?
Seems like a good concept. Go out in Richmond and try to license a buggy. And how are we going to get this to function? So we have to have some education. We have to have some buy-in from the Amish community as well. And we also have to bring some pressure to them.
Are these White Toppers,
It's a different sect.
is that the ones that we would have in Monroe?
You might have some. There's some in Andover too.
Because I've never seen, and I've seen a lot of buggies, I've never seen young kids driving them, I guess. They do.
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's an issue. And
I've seen the women. I've seen
Yes.
women. But
and it's tragic. And here's the other reason why I'm very much concerned about this. There are some injection wells out in Monroe that run 24/7. And my concern at the time was that these trucks on time schedules on back roads where the Amish are would meet with an terrible unfortunate accident. Potential is there.
Right.
So I'm worried about the blend because we have to respect their rights, but we also have to protect everybody. And it's
That's
critical.
probably
that we
one
get
of
it
the
right.
most aspects aspects is that, you know, it's harder to do those conversations with the Amish or a sect of the Amish because of, you know, it takes a long time to build trust and
That's
build
it.
that communication.
Right.
You just can't go in and say, oh, let's negotiate for an hour or two and now we have decisions made. It's a very long process.
And I went out with a township trustee from Richmond Township because he had made those connections.
Vital.
But again, I'm still the outsider, which is why, and this goes back to another conversation we had.
30 seconds.
It's important for me to invest my life in as many components of our constituents' life as possible, so I understand from the inside out what their issues are.
Yeah.
And so I am, long story short, working on this issue, and I need some help in the legislature to do that, but also some help here from our local Amish.
That's understandable. Hi, you're on the air.
Pat,
Yeah.
this is Kim Culver, honey. I
Yeah.
have a question. Who can I call about a garage that's halfway in my yard and halfway in my neighbor's, but it's falling apart?
What does she have?
Is she in the city of Conneaut?
Yes.
Zoning, I would think.
Yeah, probably the zoning, or I would just call the city manager's office at City Hall, and they'll direct you on where you should go and get that taken care of as soon as possible.
Alrighty, because I just don't want it falling in my yard and one of my kids getting hurt.
Right, right. I would call the city manager's office today, and it's in the phone book, the number, and under the city of Conneaut listing, and they'll be able to direct you the right direction, okay?
Alrighty, thank you, Pat.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, this Amish thing, because I've followed the Amish coming here. I mean, I remember when they first started coming
Yes.
here, and we used to drive when we were younger. My wife and I, we used to drive to Middlefield just to witness
see
the
them
experience.
get out
You
of here.
know, and,
And it's a good thing because they're taking some of our farms that have fallen into
for sure.
disrepair,
Yeah.
and they're wonderful members of our community.
yeah, they don't bother
Yeah.
anybody.
No.
Yeah.
But because of that interaction, we have to make sure that it's safe for all, safe for them,
Sure.
safe for us, and
Absolutely.
that's an issue for us.
Okay. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Mr. Patterson. I'm a proud Ashtabula County residential worker, and I just pray that you fight to the fullest for what we believe in with our residents, staff, and pupils that go to Ashcraft
Yes.
and Happy Hearts. Praise the Lord for these people. Not everybody was born perfect, but you know what? Those people have more love than what you could give your wife times 100.
Yeah.
I look forward to going to my job day in and day out. I'm always willing to work any shift to go over and see my residents. I've been off on medical leave this week. I'm going in on third shift tonight. I'm going back on second shift tomorrow. Then I'm going to go in and work at 10 to 6 because I want to be there for my residents.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
But just do the best you can
Yep.
for them. They look forward to going to work. And, you know, like I said, not everybody has a disability, but, you know, we work with our people to keep life skills. These people have to have assistance with life skills in order to live. Any day or anything they basically could do could be a hazardous situation where they need these services to make them fulfill their dreams in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All
And
right.
I will fight for our people.
And he had pledged that he would do this, so. John, we held you over today, but you got a lot of phone calls and a lot of interesting conversation. Most of it, of course, when I was out of the room. I was only gone 30 seconds. I come in and they're into this big.
We have limited time. We gotta like.
Well, remember,
cut to- yeah.
look at that size of coffee that she's drinking this morning.
Right,
She's all
right.
caffeined up. We have one other call.
Let's
I can
take
stay
it.
for this one.
All right. Hi, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning to
Hello.
all of you. The question I have is, John, have you heard any rumblings about getting rid of daylight savings times in the state of Ohio? If there isn't, why don't you start some?
Yeah.
I'll hang up and listen to you.
All right.
That's a first. I've not heard
haven't
any
heard that
rumblings about that. So, and in fact, it's interesting. That actually the historical side of that, it goes back to World War I during the Wilson administration. When
Really?
we experimented with it to be more productive for the war effort. And it was something that caught on.
And then it went over to the farmers, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
doing
yeah,
that?
yeah.
And then I think they extended it or something. Now it's in November or something. It used to be in October.
And there's a story behind that. Charcoal manufacturers lobbied during the Reagan administration to change that early so that people could have more cookouts.
Oh,
Is that right?
Well, that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting.
I love cooking.
Lobbying. You know,
You
that's
think?
just.
You think?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
You got another one.
Another one.
Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, this is Cindy. Hey,
Yes.
on Happy Hearts in Ashcraft,
Yes.
I have a friend that has a son that goes to Ashcraft, and he came home and he asked her, Mom, what does eliminate mean? And when she told him that it meant no more, she said he started to cry.
Mm-hmm.
That place, those places are more than a job to
That's right.
those people. And her son does work outside in the community, but he also works at Ashcraft.
Wow.
He does both. And
Yeah.
they all do have the opportunity if they're able to work out in the community.
Sure.
So I don't see any reason to shut that down. That would be just a terrible thing.
I agree with you.
Right.
Just a terrible thing, and I hope they don't do that.
I agree.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Cindy. Bye-bye.
And you know, that leads me to a suggestion. You might want to have Ann Zeitler in,
Okay.
who's director out there, especially after this meeting.
By the way, through your efforts, I had a nice conversation with Dr. Curry.
All right, he told me he was,
He said, give me till the first of the year and we'll figure out what we're going to do. So he
Right.
hopefully will have another veterinarian here in
Good.
Concord.
Good.
Very nice man.
He certainly is. He was fortunate to have his children.
Yeah.
And caution here, the tick population, and we're not sure why, but the tick population has decreased. I think maybe the polar vortex, not necessarily because the ticks, they survive, it's their hosts,
Okay.
the mice, the deer population. But please be careful. Because there still are problems with Lyme disease. We're #1 in the state.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't go away even in the winter.
No, the ticks are active and they're still there.
They want to come in and stay warm and post
Yeah.
or get on somebody.
Got another call.
God, you're a
Wow.
popular boy today. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning, Matt.
Hi.
Hey, I got a question to ask John. Is anything ever going to be happening to Farnham, where we used to have our picnics and everything, the baseball games and car washes and everything? Is anything ever going to happen down there? I'll hang up.
Okay,
and
Mary.
you answer it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Larry.
Farnham's been closed for many, many years. Mainly, I think, because of the police. It was so far out, the police couldn't get there. And there was a lot of bad things that were happening there, some shootings and drugs and that sort of stuff. But I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything either. In fact, this is the first constituent who's raised questions about being able to develop that. And I've not, and part of it has been the cuts to local government funds. We don't have, those haven't been restored. And I co-sponsored legislation to restore that to levels where it was before all the cuts. Didn't go anywhere. Because I think it's important. It's fire, police, and road salt, things like that, that we have to address. And the state has a responsibility to do just that, because local communities are so varied. The challenges, the economic challenges we face in Conneaut are far different than the challenges they face in Columbus.
Yes.
And the states like the common denominator. You got another one.
Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
Mr. Patterson, I feel very strongly about the issue of cursive writing being stopped
Yes,
in
yes.
the high school. It bothers me, and I'm willing to do any legwork possible. I don't know where to start, but I want to have this issue brought up so we can. How can I get the ball rolling, or who can I write to, or talk to?
And
Sure.
yes, yes, yes. And I'm glad you use the term "right." I don't want you to use your computer on this one. Okay? Are you familiar with Spencerian penmanship?
What did you say?
We are.
There's a delay on the phone. Sorry.
Okay, okay. We are blessed in this county because the father of American penmanship grew up and perfected his craft right in Geneva, and that's why Platt R. Spencer Elementary School is named after
I'm aware
him.
of that. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yep.
And that society seeks to perpetuate his good work. In fact, I attended, not this year, last year, they have a conference, a week-long conference in Geneva down at the lake for people to work on their skills. But they are very much interested in preserving the cursive penmanship.
Definitely.
I believe if you, and I don't have the exact contact information off the top of my head, but go do an internet search, look for a Spencerian, like Spencer penmanship, you'll find something. Start with them, and yes, I'm very sensitive to restoring that particular component in our education. The problem is,
I just can't believe it. It's such an individual thing. I mean, it's like a fingerprint in life. It's such a personal thing, and I think our kids are really being cheated by not learning cursive writing.
And here's the issue beyond that. As an amateur historian, if we go back into records and we cannot recognize handwriting, we're going to lose all of that, all those letters, all those diaries.
Sure.
It's important to teach it.
I know, they're teaching the Declaration of Independence. They can't read it.
That's right. That's right.
I'm really glad I called you then. I wrote that down, and I'll do that.
Well, and if contact the Geneva Public Library, because that is going to be your one-stop shop in order
good.
to.
Then that'll help me out. Geneva and Spencer, you said, penmanship?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're
Have
welcome.
a great day.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, John, we got to let you out of here.
Well, we've covered the waterfront today. haven't we?
We've covered everything. Unbelievable. I'm just glad I was part of it.
And he stayed too, didn't he?
Oh,
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you. Always
I'm sorry I have to cut off the telephone calls now.
Yeah,
He has to be on the road.
Yeah, I have to be in Geneva by 10 o'clock.
Oh, Lord.
There we go.
You should be okay.
We'll make it.
Thanks, John. Thank you so
God
much,
bless.
buddy.
Thanks.